This is the Apex Institute Master Research Standard. Case study number 5, the Fundamental Payroll Certification and the Institutionalization of Compliance Operations. Status: confirmed. In the high-stakes arena of enterprise operations, payroll processing functions as a zero-defect system. Every single transaction requires absolute mathematical and legal precision. Yet, as corporate infrastructure scaled at the turn of the century, a profound operational vulnerability emerged within global service bureaus and corporate shared services networks. Let us isolate the documented historical facts. In the year 2000, the American Payroll Association, now unified globally as PayrollOrg, introduced a foundational credential known as the Fundamental Payroll Certification. Before this structural pivot, the industry standard was anchored exclusively by the Certified Payroll Professional designation, which had been established in 1985. The senior designation, however, maintained a rigid prerequisite of up to 3 years of direct payroll processing experience. This tenure requirement created a severe operational bottleneck as the digital economy expanded. To understand the strategic necessity of this pivot, we must examine the historical context of the late 1990s. The corporate landscape was experiencing a massive technological migration. Manual bookkeeping and legacy localized databases were rapidly replaced by automated, highly integrated enterprise resource planning systems. This rapid shift exposed a systemic knowledge gap. The software engineers coding the automated processing rules, the implementation consultants managing client setups, and the entry-level client services consultants possessed exceptional technical capabilities, but they lacked foundational literacy in statutory wage and hour laws. They were operating complex financial engines without a clear understanding of the underlying regulatory mechanics. Through the lens of systems thinking, the introduction of the new certification framework was a deliberate operational strategy to shift risk mitigation upstream. Instead of treating compliance as a reactive, back-office auditing routine managed by a small group of senior executives, progressive organizations realized they needed to build a uniform compliance floor at the very front line of customer service and software deployment. The strategic constraints were absolute. Executives could not lower the eligibility requirements of the senior executive designation without systematically diluting its prestige and market value. Conversely, relying on fragmented, non-standardized internal training modules failed to provide the rigorous, verifiable baseline required to satisfy state and federal oversight bodies. The decision was executed to build an independent, decoupled foundational tier. This pathway validated technical payroll literacy, gross-to-net calculations, and statutory deadlines independent of career longevity. From an economic and operations perspective, the impact was immediate and measurable. Payroll calculation errors propagate quadratically across an enterprise, where a single systemic miscalculation regarding blended overtime rates or state unemployment caps can trigger millions of dollars in statutory penalties and early client contract terminations. By standardizing training across 7 critical compliance domains, ranging from Fair Labor Standards Act provisions to strict tax levy and child support garnishment sequencing, organizations successfully insulated themselves from downstream transactional defects. Frontline client services consultants gained the institutional capacity to identify and resolve complex multi-state configuration errors at the point of origin. This operational efficiency drastically compressed average handle times, drove first contact resolution metrics upward, and eliminated the costly backlogs clogging senior engineering escalation queues. Through the lens of organizational behavior, the institutionalization of this standard transformed the internal labor market. By providing entry-level specialists with a clear, milestone-based professional credential within their first year of tenure, enterprises successfully mitigated voluntary attrition, shifting employee psychology from a transient data entry mindset to a dedicated compliance career trajectory. This concludes the primary narrative analysis. We leave you with a fundamental question for strategic reflection. When managing complex, legally sensitive client portfolios, how does your organization systematically validate the compliance literacy of your frontline personnel before their execution impacts your institutional bottom line? The answer marks the clear boundary between systemic vulnerability and operational immortality.